Hey, welcome back to Focus Today, and what a delight to have in the studio with us the Republican candidate for Oregon's Attorney General, Zane Crowe is with us, and we want to learn more about him and his candidacy. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome in. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you've lost your mind.
Well, I think that first started when the Army sent me to law school, but I grew up in Mount Angel, 16 miles northeast of Salem, home of the world-famous Oktoberfest.
There you go.
My parents were truckers, my grandparents were farmers, and I followed a different path. I went to West Point, and after graduating from West Point, an Army Ranger School, I was minding my own business as a paratrooper,
really?
Doing my thing, and the Army came down in its wisdom and said, you go to law school. So I ended up spending the last 2/3 of my military career as a judge advocate, a military lawyer.
Wow.
Yep.
All right. So why did you enter the race?
Well, after I retired from the Army, I came home to Oregon, and I immediately began working in the Portland Public Defender's Office, administering something called the Veterans Justice Program that I built up there.
Yeah.
I care for veterans throughout the entire state of Oregon, including down here in Medford with Access. I work with Access, amazing, with the supportive services.
Great organization.
Yes, Supportive Services for Veterans Families program. So I cover the entire state of Oregon, and I take care of veterans who struggle with homelessness, PTSD, and drug addiction, particularly as a result of their combat injuries. And what I very, very quickly realized when I came home is the corruption that I thought I'd left behind in the third world had preceded me here in Oregon government.
Wow.
And corruption is eating the heart out of Oregon government and our ability to care for our people.
That's a big word. Corruption. Explain that.
Well, let me give you some concrete examples.
Okay.
When $200 million of your tax money and your viewers' tax money disappears off the back dock, not building a bridge across the Columbia at I-5, that has a cost, and that cost can be measured in human terms. 15-year-old Fallon Smart is walking across the street at Southeast Hawthorne and 43rd in Portland, and she's run over at an unpainted crosswalk. $200 million would have painted every crosswalk in the state of Oregon. Instead, that $200 million disappeared into open-ended personal service contracts. We don't even have plans for that bridge across Columbia at I-5. That's corruption.
Wow.
And I can give you another example that touches more closely on this particular race. Yeah. So you remember the Oracle debacle,
The
$300 million not building a website.
Right.
Well, that $300 million, Oracle didn't need to cheat. The Attorney General just didn't read the fine print of the contract, and we ended up signing up to a contract that was a no defined deliverable contract. Right. Bad enough. So then this Attorney General outsources the litigation from the capable litigators who are in the Oregon Department of Justice, whom we pay with our tax dollars every year.
I don't think anybody knows that part of it.
Yes, and but it gets much worse, because the law firm to which she outsourced the contract on a no-bid contract was a law firm, a politically connected Portland law firm called Markovitz Herbold. When this lawsuit that was made for $6 billion alleging racketeering and fraud against Oracle, this lawsuit gets settled for $100 million, right? Which was the nuisance cost for Oracle. $25 million in cash, $65 million in computing services, which is going to cost us $491 million to actually utilize, because it's going to result in vendor lock-in.
So this came from the governor's office to the legislature, and they signed it and hired this law firm.
Well, no. It didn't go through the governor's office, didn't go through the legislature.
Oh, really?
Straight from the Attorney General to hire this law firm. And the worst part about it is the $25 million in cash that Oracle gave us, 8% of the total $300 million. They gave us an 8% rebate. They kept 92% of the cash.
My stars.
$25 million. That goes straight to Markovitz Herbold. Now, at $300 an hour, $25 million is 83,333 hours of legal work. That's
Really?
41 years of legal work that they billed in 18 months. But it gets much worse than that, because that $25 million that goes on a no-bid contract to Markovitz Herbold, well, perhaps not coincidentally, Markovitz Herbold, the law firm, is Ellen Rosenblum, the incumbent Attorney General's most generous campaign contributor. They've given her tens of thousands of dollars in campaign contributions, and she gave them a $25 million no-bid contract.
It's just, we all suspect these things happening. You obviously, Daniel, have pointed it out. One of the big themes in this whole campaign cycle, and it certainly has reached us all the way up to the top of the presidential one, is this thing called the rule of law, law and order. Yes. Trump saying, I want to be the law and order candidate. How would you grade law and order in the state of Oregon?
F-.
Really?
Yeah. Now, the district attorneys and the sheriffs are by and large, doing an excellent job. They're responsive to their counties. They're handling the crimes that district attorneys and sheriffs are supposed to handle, which are crimes of passion. So if some 15-year-old knocks over a liquor store, well, that guy's getting arrested. He's being put in jail. He's doing whatever needs to be done. The Attorney General of Oregon is supposed to be prosecuting crimes of calculation, organized crime, public corruption, and yet Oregon is dead last, 50th in the country in prosecutions for public corruption. It's just astonishing when I came back and I realized it. And we can do so much better, because when there's no prosecutions for public corruption, or almost none, then there is no accountability in Oregon government. And we all see this. And transparency and good government go together, just like opacity and corruption go together. And the thing is, I saw in third world countries corruption and the breakdown of the rule of law. And the tragic thing, the thing that should disturb every one of the people watching you today particularly, is in Egypt and Iraq and Afghanistan and Russia, there's plenty of rich people. There's just no middle class, and the most vulnerable suffer the most. And what I saw when I came back here to Oregon is the most vulnerable Oregonians are the ones who are suffering the most. And if I may, I'll give you an example, is Hayden Tiley in Dallas, Oregon, Polk County. Every time he's coming back from being babysat by his stepfather, his father notices bruises all over him. And his father calls again and again and again to DHS for help. Something's wrong, something's wrong. Well, DHS does nothing. And Hayden Tiley is beaten to death by his stepfather, little baby. Everything that Hayden was ever going to do, experience, the children he's never going to have, it's all gone. His stepfather is being punished and being tried by the Polk County District Attorney. That's a crime of passion, right? Nobody in DHS is being held accountable. And Oregon, you and all of your viewers are on the hook for a $10 million lawsuit because DHS did nothing. And if you think that anybody in DHS is going to be held accountable, then you haven't been following Oregon politics lately.
Can anybody sue the DHS and win?
It's not a question. Well, first of all, yeah, the state of Oregon gets sued by a private party. We get sued all the time. Lead in kids' water in Portland, we get sued. We do something bad or incompetent, bad police shooting, we get sued.
You're dealing with endless money on the other side of the fence.
Well, unfortunately, there's not endless money because we're running out.
Right.
But the reality is that instead of suing the state of Oregon, private people, what the Attorney General should be doing is disciplining lack of duty performance. Now, most civil servants are good people, conscientious people. I've worked with social workers ever since I retired from the Army, caring for veterans. These people are dedicated, they've got huge caseloads. But the problem with corruption, the cost of corruption, is that it drains money out of the public treasury that would otherwise be used to take care of people. And so what you have to do as the Attorney General is you have to go in there and you have to say, like what happened in Cottage Grove, when a social worker says, I made a home visit on a Monday, and on a Thursday, that foster kid dies of malnutrition, well, that social worker, somebody needs to ask some tough questions, and maybe somebody needs to be prosecuted for not protecting that child.
We're talking to Daniel Zane Crowe. He is the Republican candidate for Attorney General for the state of Oregon. He'll be on your ballot coming out soon. By the way, you can go to OregonsLawyer.com, or .org, excuse me. OregonsLawyer.org is his website. Again, OregonsLawyer.com, all one word.
No, .org.
I'm sorry. Let me get this straight. I apologize.
Yes.
OregonsLawyer.org.
Yes, because I want to be Oregon's lawyer.
We have some of the worst human trafficking in the country right up in the I-5 corridor. We have various ministry groups around the state that are doing their best to intervene and working with local agencies. But nonetheless, it's a huge problem.
It's a gigantic problem.
What would you do as Attorney General?
Well, first, let's give a little context. Human trafficking and child sex trafficking is a product of organized crime. And a lot of it comes out of California and used to go east into the interior of our country through Nevada. But my friend, fellow former military judge advocate, Adam Laxalt, who's the Attorney General of Nevada, has cracked down on it. And these gangs are sophisticated. So now they're avoiding Nevada and they're trafficking their children through Oregon, up the I-5 corridor, across 84, or up into Washington State. Oregon is in the bottom 5, and I believe, by all measures, and I believe we're the worst in the country in child sex trafficking right now. And it gets so much worse. On October 20th of 2014, 50 attorneys general, including Ellen Rosenblum, the incumbent, signed a letter to the Congress and said, we want you to pass something called the SAVE Act, Stop Advertising for Victims of Exploitation. And in it, that letter, and anybody can look this letter up on the National Association of Attorneys General, or they can go to my website and take a look at it. In this letter, they say, vendors like Backpage.com create, quote, virtual brothels where children are bought and sold. So imagine my chagrin when I drill a little deeper into this. Now, this is a letter that the Attorney General of Oregon signed. So what most people don't know is that Ellen Rosenblum, the Attorney General of Oregon, owns the Willamette Week newspaper. And on the back of the Willamette Week newspaper, they advertise sex work. Right? That sex work, the vendor that they use to advertise that sex work is Backpage.com, the very same vendor whom Ellen Rosenblum said in a letter to Congress creates virtual brothels where children are bought and sold.
Yeah, she's taking the money off the back page.
She's taking the money off the back page.
When are we, Daniel, going to prosecute buying sex as much as we do selling it?
We're Oregon. Right? And our DNA is Oregon. I grew up in Tom McCall's Oregon, and I saw a political tradition that was uniquely our own. And it's characterized. People come to Oregon because they want to be left alone. Right? And so the way that our people, the values of our people right now, like it or not, is that whatever people do in the privacy of their own homes, most Oregonians, they don't care. They don't want to know. Right? And they don't want to get in because they don't want somebody else, they don't want the government in their bedroom. And so it's live and let live state. Right? That's not what we're talking about here.
No.
Most women and men, there are men as well, who are trafficked into sex work. A vast majority of the people who work in the sex industry aren't doing it voluntarily. They're hooked on drugs. They're being compelled to do this. They've been groomed by pimps. They are children. So
they're minors, yeah.
The thing is, it's a question of will and priority. Now, the incumbent Attorney General thinks that the most important thing that we could be doing right now is criminally and civilly prosecuting climate change denial. Right? I think the most important thing we should be concentrating right now is saving children who are being trafficked and adults who are being forced and compelled into sex work. I think that the Oregon government should be focusing its resources on testing the hundreds and thousands of rape kits that have accumulated because this Attorney General can't be bothered to make sure they get tested because it's not, quote unquote, it's not her job. Wow. Well, I would suggest to you that it is the job of the Attorney General of Oregon to protect our people and to be that custodian of the rule of law.
Let me, I've only got about a minute left, and I apologize.
No
You're a great guest. OregonsLawyer.org is his website. Daniel Zane Crowe.
Yes.
Look for that name on the ballot.
And what people can do is they can Google Daniel Crowe, C-R-O-W-E, Oregon. Daniel Crowe, Oregon, website pops up.
All right, one other quick question, 30 seconds to answer it, and I'm sorry, that's all you got. What did we do to ourselves by legalizing marijuana?
Prohibition doesn't work. Right? So by legalizing marijuana, whether I think it's smart or not, we decided as a people that we want to manage drug addiction, we want to manage drug use in a different way, in a non-criminal way. Right. What we did is we set ourselves up for some complications and some difficulties, but Oregonians have spoken. My job is to enforce the law without fear or favor, not to make the laws up.
Okay. Well, there's a lot there, as you can tell. Let me encourage you, OregonsLawyer.org, or you can go to Daniel Crowe, C-R-O-W-E, Google that, up pops everything.
Daniel Crowe, Oregon.
Daniel Crowe, Oregon.
Yes.
All right.
That's a mouthful.
A lot here. Thanks for coming in. Good to see you.
Thank
Good
you
luck
so
to
much
you.
for having me.
Okay, we'll see you next time on Focus Today.